everyone, welcome back. Today I'm sharing a powerful component of the Recalibrate Coaching methodology that I use with my clients, the deconstruct step for limiting beliefs and conditioning. Those quiet, persistent thoughts that hold us back from reaching our full potential deserve our focused attention. I'm going to walk you through a transformative exercise today, one focused on this deconstruct phase. The deconstruct step is where real change begins, as it allows us to dismantle beliefs that no longer serve us. So grab a pen and paper and let's get started. Before we dive in, let me quickly explain how this fits into the larger Recalibrate Coaching methodology that I've developed. Recalibrate focuses on a process that helps you identify, deconstruct, and transform the mental frameworks that shape your life. The deconstruct step is absolutely crucial to this. It's where we take apart limiting beliefs and conditioning piece by piece, examining their origin and impacts with compassion and curiosity. So what exactly are limiting beliefs? They're those persistent thoughts that constrain us in some way. Thoughts we've accepted as truth about ourselves, others, or how the world works. Some common examples include things like, I'm not smart, talented, experienced enough, fill in the blank. I don't deserve success. I must be perfect to be worthy. And I can't say no to others. These beliefs aren't facts. They're interpretations we've internalized, often from childhood or past experiences. And here's the thing, the deconstruct step gives us the tools to dismantle them effectively. So let's start with step 1 of today's exercise, belief identification. Take a moment to think about an area of your life where you feel stuck or consistently struggle. Maybe it's relationships, career advancement, health goals, or creative pursuits. Now ask yourself, what do I believe about myself in this situation? Try to distill it down to just a simple statement. So for example, if you struggle with putting yourself out there professionally, your limiting belief might be, I don't have anything valuable to contribute. If you have trouble setting boundaries, it might be something like, other people's needs are more important than mine. So take a few minutes now to identify a belief, then write it down at the top of your page because we'll be examining it throughout the rest of this process. Okay, so now that you have your belief that you want to release, we'll move on to step 2, the impact assessment. If you recall from last week's video, impact questions allow us to get honest about how this belief affects different areas of your life. First, let's look at the physical impact. When you think about this belief, what happens in your body? Do you notice tension somewhere specific, maybe in your shoulders? How about your breathing? Does it change? Are there knots in your stomach? Our bodies often register the truth long before our minds can even catch up. Now let's consider the emotional impact. What feelings arise when you hold this belief? Anxiety, shame, sadness, frustration? Name these emotions without any judgment. Now look at the relational impact. How does this belief affect your interactions with others? For example, if you believe I'm not enough, you might constantly seek validation or even avoid situations entirely. Finally, consider the practical impact. How has this belief limited your actions and choices? What opportunities have you missed out because of it? So take another few minutes here to jot down the impacts you've identified. Being honest with yourself here is crucial for this transformation. Welcome back. If you're still writing down some impacts, that's okay. Feel free to pause the video and keep writing. If you're ready to move forward, then we'll be moving on to step 3, investigating authority. Again, remember from last week's video that authority refers to the fact that it was usually a person in a perceived authority or power position who we learned the limiting belief from in the first place. So in our second step, we're going to uncover where the limiting belief you wrote down actually came from. I want you to ask yourself, when did I first adopt this belief? Who or what taught it to me, either directly or indirectly? Often, limiting beliefs form in childhood as protection mechanisms or as ways to make sense of confusing experiences. Maybe a teacher made an offhand comment, or a parent had certain expectations, or you observed patterns in your family dynamic. For example, I had a client who once realized her belief that asking for help shows weakness came from watching her single mother struggle alone. Understanding this context helped her recognize this belief wasn't an absolute truth. It was actually a survival strategy from a very specific time and place. The goal here isn't to blame anyone. It's to understand that this belief had a beginning, and what has a beginning can have an end. So take another few minutes here to write down the answers to these questions. If you need a little more time, feel free to pause again and keep writing. But now that we have our impact assessment and we've investigated the authority of our chosen belief, we'll move on to step 4, reality testing. This is truly the heart of the deconstruct step in the Recalibrate methodology. This is where the real transformation begins, where we put on our detective hat and critically examine the evidence. In my coaching practice, I found this step to be the pivotal moment where clients experience their first major shift. Why? Because we're actively dismantling the belief structure that's been limiting us from moving forward in our lives. First, write down evidence that seems to support your limiting belief. These are the experiences you've probably been focusing on that reinforce this belief. Next, and here's the crucial work of this step, write down evidence that contradicts this belief. Think of times when the opposite was true, even in small ways. And here's what's fascinating. Most people find much more evidence against their limiting belief than for it. But they've been filtering out this contradictory evidence because it doesn't match their belief system. For example, if your belief is, I always mess up important opportunities, you might immediately recall the 3 interviews where you may have stumbled. But you might overlook the dozen other times you performed really well under pressure. The deconstruct step isn't about positive thinking. It's about accurate thinking. It's about systematically taking apart the faulty structure of your limiting beliefs to reveal the truth that's been there all along. So again here, take a few more minutes to capture all of the evidence. So how are you doing so far? I know it can feel like a lot when we're looking at deconstructing beliefs, but we're finally at step 5, which is integration and awareness. This isn't about rushing to change your belief or replace it with something new. This deconstruct step is specifically about uncovering and assessing, bringing these hidden scripts to light. The goal of this exercise is to really see how much of your life you have been living according to someone else's script. So take a moment to reflect on what you've discovered through this process. Ask yourself, how has this limiting belief been operating in my life without my conscious awareness? How has it influenced my choices, relationships, and self-perception? This awareness alone is powerful. Many of my clients experience profound shifts simply from recognizing that what they thought was just how things are or just who I am is actually a belief they adopted from someone else, a belief that can completely be questioned. So write down your reflections about this belief. How does it feel to recognize it as a belief rather than a truth about yourself or the world? What possibilities might open up as you carry this awareness forward? Again, the goal isn't to immediately transform everything. It's to become conscious of the unconscious scripts that have been running your life. The awareness creates space for choice where before there was only automatic reaction. I recommend repeating this deconstruct process or step with every limiting belief you identify. Each one you bring to light decreases its unconscious power over you. Remember, the deconstruct step is the cornerstone of transformation in the Recalibrate methodology. It's where we create awareness of the scripts that have been running our lives without our conscious consent. Again, this isn't about immediately changing everything. It's about shining a light on what's been operating in the shadows. The simple act of bringing these beliefs to consciousness diminishes their power over us. I recommend keeping your notes from today somewhere visible and reviewing them frequently. Notice how your awareness of these beliefs shifts as you move through your days, now that you've identified them as beliefs rather than truths. So what limiting belief did you choose to deconstruct today? What did you discover about its origins and impacts? I'd love to hear, so share any insights you have in the comments below. Your experience might actually help someone else recognize their own unconscious scripts. Next week, we're going to build on this deconstruct phase and move into the disconnect phase of the Recalibrate Coaching methodology. Because here's the truth, we can't rebuild until we let go. In the disconnect phase, we'll work through that critical question. Am I ready and willing to let these beliefs go? And I'll be honest with you, this can be the hardest part of the process. These beliefs, assumptions, habits, and biases are so deeply ingrained in us. We've been living with them for so long that letting them go can trigger feelings of guilt, uncertainty, or even fear. But this is precisely where true change happens. Next week's video will be an introduction to this vital step in the Recalibrate methodology, and I can't wait to share it with you. So until next time, keep questioning, keep deconstructing, and keep discovering the unconscious scripts that no longer serve you. And don't forget to join our community of conscious, authentic change makers. Thank you for watching.